Welcome to Old School Nana. I'm Linda, but everybody just calls me Nana. My 5 grandchildren call me that. Their spouses, their friends. My 5 great-grandchildren call me Nana. Most all of the friends, about everybody we know. And I hope you will too, as we continue to visit with one another and you get to know me and I get to know you. You know, I'm hoping if somebody comes by sometime and asks you, what are you doing? You're going to say, oh, I'm just visiting with Nana. And so I call myself Old School Nana because, as you can see, this is an old schoolhouse, but it is where I live. You know, I had a 30-year career in South Florida as a middle school educator. First part of my career I spent as a classroom teacher, and the last part of my career I spent as a middle school counselor. So I guess you could say I never was able to get out of middle school, but honestly, it allowed me to spend a whole lot of years with some of my very favorite people, middle schoolers. I know they can be a handful, but I'm telling you, I love them. So anyway, I'm retired and we were still living down in South Florida, but we were looking for some place to be able to come back to my native Oklahoma. And we found this place on the internet, and y'all, bought it sight unseen. And I'm so glad, really, I'm so glad that we did, because we love it here. Now, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about this old schoolhouse, but as we continue to visit with one another and get to know each other, I'll tell you more and more stories about this old schoolhouse. I will tell you that it has a lot of stories of its own to tell, and I'll try to pass those along to you as well. But meanwhile, just a little bit about it. It is built of native sandstone that was quarried nearby. Local craftsmen built it during the late 1930s. They would have been working on the construction in about 1937, 1938, but it was dedicated in February of 1939. The funding for this old schoolhouse came from something called the WPA, and it was dedicated by the WPA in 1939. Now, if you don't know what the WPA is, that's all right, because we'll do a little history lesson in one of our visits and we'll talk about it. What is it? Who initiated it? But I would encourage you to do some looking on your own. Do some research. Drop some comments and let people know what you found out. What is it? What was it? Who initiated it and why? Well, anyway, this old schoolhouse, these walls literally are 24 inches thick. I know that seems strange. It's not just a facade. It is literally an old rock schoolhouse. So again, we'll talk more about that. I love telling visitors the history of my old schoolhouse. The first time we pulled up here and saw this place, you know, having been a classroom teacher myself, I just used my imagination and I could picture the children running around in the yard here and playing catch or tag or whatever. I could see the older children sitting on the rock wall out front and visiting with one another. And certainly on a day like today, I can always picture students sitting along these rock walls with their lunches in hand and, you know, eating lunch and visiting. I can picture the teacher ringing this old school bell and calling them all inside. Or maybe in the mornings, they may have been coming from 2 or 3 miles away, and that school bell would have been ringing loudly to indicate to them, hey, y'all, hurry up, it's time time to get to school. We're about to begin. Well, anyway, that's enough about that for now. Tell you what, why don't y'all come on in and let's sit down and visit for just a few more minutes. Come on in. Well, as you can see, even the inside of the old school, the walls are rock. Remember I told you, those walls are 24 inches thick. And we'll, like I said, we'll talk more about that another time. But meanwhile, I wanted to just sit down inside with you and relax for a minute and visit. This is an old rocking chair. It's my favorite piece of furniture in the whole wide world. It belonged to my great-great-grandmother. And I like to think of the women before me and the time that they spent rocking their babies in this chair. In fact, my daughter is 47 years old, but I rocked her in this chair when she was a baby. So from time to time, in fact, most every time we get together to visit, I'll hope that you'll stop by and we'll sit in the old rocking chair and we'll visit. Sometimes we'll tell stories from here. I definitely have lots of stories, y'all. I'm 72 years old. I have a lifetime worth of stories. Sometimes we'll just talk about old school skills that maybe, you know, we could try to bring some of them back. Hang clothes out on the line, for example, or darn a sock that has a hole in it. I'd love to pass some of those skills along to you. Sometimes we'll do, I'm just going to call them seasonal tours. You know, we'll decorate some things inside the old school and we'll work together on that. I definitely want to do some visits where we go into Nana's kitchen and we cook. Now I'll talk about recipes, I'll show you the recipes and we'll cook them together. I have a recipe in there that was written down and passed on by my great-grandmother, the daughter of the lady that first owned this rocking chair. And it's passed down through the generations. She first started making it during the Great Depression to use up cream and milk that had soured. And it's a spice cake, and man, the family today still just loves it. We'll make some things like that, but we'll also make some new recipes together. And if there are any of them, anything really, that you could think of, that you say, well, Nana, I'd love to know how to cook this or how to bake that. Love to know how to make bread. I make cheese, I make yogurt. Gosh, I'm just trying to think. Actually, y'all, I think probably my main love language is feeding people. So I'm happy to cook some things and bring you along with me and pass those along to you. I love hobbies. My old school hobbies. My mom taught me how to sew when I was a child. Maybe we could sew some curtains together. Curtains are pretty easy. We could start with that. I love to knit. I love to crochet. And in fact, all throughout the year, I have some sort of a crocheting project going on. I want to talk sometimes about my favorite old things. Not this, just this old rocking chair. I have many things in this house. They're old. Now, I don't collect antiques just for the sake of collecting antiques. If there's anything I have in this house that's old, it's because, well, y'all, I'll have to admit, I have emotional attachments to objects because they remind me of people that are no longer with us, but that I love and have great memories of. Oftentimes, we'll take field trips inside the house, talk about the different rooms because y'all believe me, each room has a story to tell. Sometimes we may just go outside here at the old school. Sometimes we'll go over to my son and daughter-in-law's farm over in Ava, Missouri, Air to Ground Farms. If you haven't seen or heard of them, look them up. We'll go over there. We are going over there this week, and I'm planning while we're over there to do a garden tour and share with you guys what the September garden looks like. Oftentimes we will have guests.
In fact, this coming week, we're bringing our granddaughter, number 5, Michaela, back with us. And she knows that Nana's favorite season of the year is fall. And I've waited until she has come over or is coming over to decorate for fall, and she loves doing that. Sometimes we'll have Papa for a guest because y'all, he knows all the things and he knows how to do all of the things. And then sometimes we'll just sit and just visit, share old stories. If you have comments or questions, that really gives me a good jumping off place as to where to go next. But before every visit that we have together ends, the most important thing that I will always say to you is this: Nana loves you.